Well, guys, here's some big news. One of the first polls taken since President Biden dropped out of the race shows Vice President Harris leading former President Trump. Man, Trump's so panicked he was wiping away sweat with classified documents. It was interesting.
Yeah, but they were Hillary's classified documents, the 33,000 that she destroyed with BleachBit. She needs to be in handcuffs. It's time to jail the political enemies of the state. Yeah, a little behind the curve on that one, I think. I have to learn from the masters, the Democrats, you know. Well, happy hump day to you. Happy Wednesday. Big day in the Clinton household. Hillary Clinton waking up once again face down in a pool of her own dried vomit on her linoleum kitchen floor. They have to have the linoleum floor because they know every Wednesday it's the same old thing. Empty cardboard box of cheap New Zealand Chardonnay next to her. Secret Service standing over with their knuckles on their hips, shaking their heads. And Bill Clinton knows that Hillary's got to get out of the house because it's hump day in the Clinton household. And they had to take a little time out this Wednesday, I think, to hate the Jews because, boy, the Democrat Party, they really hate the Jews. What do we have, Michael? How many do we have? 50 Democrats now? Is it 50 Democrats boycotting the Jew on Capitol Hill? Benjamin Netanyahu are one of our closest allies and certainly our closest ally in the Middle East, the only democracy in that region of the world, the entire region of the world. And the Democrats hate it because the Democratic Party isn't. They are not a Democratic Party. They are a left-wing party. They're a radical party. They are a violent party, an extremist party. About 200 of the Jew-hating Democrats were arrested in the Cannon House Office Building on Capitol Hill. There are 3 House Office buildings and 3 Senate Office buildings, and one of the House Office buildings is the Cannon House Office Building, and 200 approximately. They can't give an exact number because it's the government. They can't count that high. They can count to 34 trillion, but they have a lot of trouble counting to 200 when they arrest about 200 people in the Cannon House Office Building who hate the Jews. They hate the Jews, and they all had matching red T-shirts on, union made, look for the union label, and just an awful, horrible, racist bunch of anti-Semites, and they're in the Cannon House. They call themselves liberals. They're not. They're the left. They're not Democrats. They're radicals. And today, half the city is going to be shut down. Rock Creek Parkway is being shut down, one of the major avenues of ingress and egress to major swaths of the city. And they're shutting it down because Bibi Netanyahu, Benjamin Netanyahu, I don't know him well enough to call him Bibi myself, but a lot of people in the media do. And Benjamin Netanyahu addressing a joint session of Congress in the Capitol, right there in the Capitol today. And a whole lot of Democrats are boycotting because they hate the Jews. They're racists, you know. They're the party of racists. They're the party of Sheriff Bull Connor and the dogs and the fire hoses. They don't like anybody. They really don't, except maybe Karl Marx. Is he about Kamala Harris's father, the professor emeritus? He's a Jamaican American, and I don't know how he feels about the Jews. I assume that he doesn't like them, but he likes Karl Marx. It turns out that he likes Karl Marx. All these Democrats, they've got a commie in the woodpile, a commie in the closet over there, like Barack Obama and Frank Marshall Davis as his mentor, and making the CIA director. The Communist Party voter John Penitentiary Face Brennan voted for Gus Hall for president, the Communist Party candidate, and that's all fine. They got commies all over the place, swinging from the chandeliers, other people's chandeliers, and they're just there to wreck them. Amazing stuff. Also, we have the FBI director, Christopher Wray, testifying allegedly on Capitol Hill today. He tends to be quite evasive, and he sneers, and he's got a smug, arrogant look about him every time he shows up in public. But the FBI and the FBI has lost pretty much all credibility because they have been so corrupt, kind of like John Brennan and the intelligence community and the felonious 51 signing on to that information operation, lying to the American people about the reporting in the New York Post, mostly on Hunter Biden's laptop. And they said it was had all the earmarks of Russian disinformation, and all the media, they went with that because they're the filthiest, most corrupt bunch of people in the country. The news media, they're just awful, awful, horrible people. Yeah, so the Netanyahu address creates a dilemma for Democrats. And that's the headline at Roll Call. And the reason for that is they hate the Jews. Honestly, they're this close to the gas chambers. What was the other one we had today? Because they are unbelievably corrupt. Well, and maybe not unbelievably, just appallingly. Embarrassingly, it should be embarrassing to the Democrat Party, but I think that they're unembarrassable at this point, aren't they? Yes, they are. We've got amazing, amazing things going on in Washington, D.C. Lots of what they were expecting, tens of thousands of anti-Semites that the Democrats have busted in, I think, the unions. And they're like, free Palestine. Palestine is free, you moron. It's Israel. It's the only democratic civilization in that region of the world. The only one that has actual elections. The only one that allows gay people to walk around and have gay pride parades with rainbow flags. And they don't hang them from cranes while chanting, Allah is great, Allahu Akbar. Amazing stuff. But that's, and they don't go around kidnapping and raping and skinning people alive and taking hostages. But the Democrats, they're on the side of the rape and hostage people. Amazing stuff. We've even brought in hundreds of NYPD officers into D.C. because the Jew haters are in town. And they've got their handcuffs, the plastic tie wrap handcuffs. And because going to have to, now, again, 200 Democrats arrested in the Cannon House office building yesterday. I'll go ahead and bet you $1 that not one of them will face any charges at all. 2 women who are Christian women sat in front of an abortion clinic in Washington, D.C., where they kill black babies like it's going out of style, like school bus loads every month. And it's a late-term abortion place. And 2 nice ladies went there and sat down to protest, and they prayed and they sang hymns. One of them got 5 years in prison, and another got 2 years in prison because the Democrats love death more than we love life. It's the old Al-Qaeda saying, we love death more than you love life. The Democrats have stolen it. They can be sued by Al-Qaeda, I think. But these nice ladies got 5 years in prison and 2 years in prison, and they're not kidding. They're in prison. But all these people, this is an insurrection. They went in, it's illegal to go in and protest inside the buildings, and it's January 6th all over again. Yesterday, 200 arrests, and I promise you, not one of them will be sentenced to a single day in jail because we live in a corrupt country thanks to the left. The left is here. They call themselves Democrats. They are not democratic. They're awful, terrible people. Bernie Sanders, who honeymooned in the Soviet Union where they persecuted Jews. He's a Jew, but not a good one. And Bernie Sanders and Rashida Tlaib, not a Jew. We play Jew, not a Jew. She's a jihadi, a Muslim jihadi. So Bernie Sanders and Rashida Tlaib both called Benjamin Netanyahu a war criminal yesterday. And all I expect minor riots at least today because the Democrats are a violent gang of criminals and they love to riot. And are Bernie and Rashida, are they calling for gas chambers yet? They want the war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu executed in a gas chamber because they're this close. I'm once again holding my right index finger a half an inch over my right thumb. But hundreds of pro-Palestinian protesters, they're pro-Hamas, pro-jihad, pro-genocide, they're Democrats, arrested on Capitol Hill ahead of Netanyahu visit is the NBC News headline. Remarkable things. And there was a very funny development yesterday. Learned about this, and we did this on my Newsmax show last night as well. Pretty darn funny thing. Black Lives Matter put out a statement on Kamala Harris becoming the instant coronated Democrat, whatever she is. And Black Lives Matter sounds like the Republican National Committee putting out this statement about saving democracy from the Democrats because they're racists. And Black Lives Matter is making more sense in this statement, at least, than the rest of the Democrat Party combined. Now, as you know, Kamala Harris, she was nothing a couple of days ago, and then suddenly she had thousands of delegates without a single primary election being held in any of the states, and no Democrats actually voted for her, but the party bosses, who the imperialists, the the oligarchs, the Politburo. The Politburo decided behind closed doors that Kamala would be given all of the delegates, even though no one voted for her. And then they gave her $100 million. And the news media applauds this. They say, hey, they're saving democracy. This is because of rampant mental illness that goes to gender dysphoria in a whole lot of cases, too. But the Democrat Party is demented and dangerous. You know, they love to go around calling everybody Hitler, and then they call for Israel to be wiped out from the river to the sea because they have no sense of irony. And they protest, they're boycotting. Democrats are. Netanyahu speaking. Another motorcade. We actually, my best girl and I early last night, saw what could only have been the Benjamin Netanyahu motorcade go by. And it's a big motorcade with lots and lots of security, bristling with security. You know, men with guns, strong men with guns, not afraid to walk on rooftops either. You could tell just from driving by. But it went by the motorcade and several armored limos in the middle. And something very interesting that I noticed, because I notice stuff, that's what I do. And I've lived here for a long time. And that is when the limos went by, they had on the front right corner panel American flags, which is normal. And then normally on the left front corner panel, it have the flag of the nation, of the dignitary that they're transporting. But instead of having the Israeli flag, it had the State Department flag on the front left corner panel, because they know that they have all the Jew haters out here, and they're called Democrats, and they're racists. They've always been racist, and they continue to be racist, but they hate everybody, white people, black people. They kill more black people than any other race, the Democrats do. And now they hate the Jews, too. Honestly, we should whip out the Tom Lehrer thing. You know, the Catholics hate the Protestants, and the Protestants hate the Catholics, and everybody hates the Jews. Certainly, and the Democrats hate the Jews. We should just update the lyrics. Update the lyrics a little bit. Good stuff. Yeah, so Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal, but Hamas, they're on the side of the angels when it comes to the bloodthirsty ghouls that call themselves the Democrat Party. Remarkable stuff, bringing in hundreds of police from New York City and doubtless elsewhere because the Democrat Party, amazing stuff. The Answer Coalition, which was created to support Al-Qaeda right after September 11th, volunteers are up bright and early here in Washington, D.C., preparing for today's mobilization. It's a military term. It's an insurrection. It's an uprising to demand the arrest of war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu. You know, they already shot Donald Trump just a week and a half ago or so, and Benjamin Netanyahu's security is very much in jeopardy. Now, and Answer says, in just a few hours, people will converge from across the country. They're all mentally ill. They've unionized mentally ill people to protest his address to Congress and demand an end to the Gaza genocide. They use the words, but they don't know what they mean. They're actually supporting genocide, these protesters, but they're too stupid or too corrupt. Those are the only two possibilities. They're too stupid or too corrupt to recognize that they are in fact backing genocide by backing Hamas. And I told you that the Palestinian factions, Hamas and Fatah, cut a deal. Now they're going to stop murdering each other for a little while. And they did it in communist China with the communist Chinese presiding over it. It's kind of like the Democrat Party in the United States in a nutshell. They belong in a nutshell. And they've got the commie Chinese guy in the middle and the terrorists on the left and the right of him. And the Democrats are applauding the terrorists and the communists. And they hate America. They're truly anti-American. The Democratic Party is anti-American. They're un-American. Amazing stuff. Fun piece today I hope to get to. That is, the headline is Mostly Peaceful Assassinations by Daniel Greenfield. Mostly Peaceful Assassinations. Amazing stuff. And, the Secret Service now encouraging President Trump to stop holding outdoor rallies because they know that a lot of Democrats want to shoot him and kill him because the Democrats, the first Republican president and the fourth Republican. How many Republican presidents have been shot by Democrats? Honestly, the only Democrat president shot was John F. Kennedy, and he was shot by a communist who's a leftist, by the way. Or the CIA. They still haven't released those documents. Amazing stuff. And Joe Biden issuing a statement, they got another police shooting they care about. Must be racist. And an illegal alien in Louisiana kills 2 teenagers. The Democrats are fine with that. They want more of that because they're not on our side. Boy, are they not on our side. So we got a few things to get to today. And the Democrats, they won't pick a Jewish governor, Shapiro, to be the running mate for Kamala because she hates the Jews, and they all hate the Jews. And they figure they'll lose a lot of Democrat votes if you choose a Jewish vice president because they should be wearing armbands. They're already goose-stepping in lockstep and clicking their heels. Raus, raus, or. And Joe Biden's the most successful president America's had since Abraham Lincoln, according to a newspaper today. I don't think that's true, but we'll get to that. Let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Steve calling from Bowie, Maryland. Steve-O, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris-O. Good morning.
Hey.
Hey, Kamala is just very interesting because everyone's so excited about her, but if you think about what she's going to talk about, none of it is what really impacts Americans. Abortion is not, helpful to make Americans live better. She talks about climate change. That's not going to help Americans live better. Inflation, they caused that. She's not going to talk about that because they caused it. She will talk about things that and impact the lives in a positive way, Americans. And so, it'll be very interesting how she tries to get around this. And I think she'll be exposed when she's not scripted on a teleprompter, but she has a live interview with, Lester Holt. Have you been to the border? Yeah, we've been to the border. No, you haven't been to the border. Oh, well, I haven't been to Europe either. So she's going to have a lot of moments like that when she's pressed in an interview, and I think she's going to be exposed.
Well, I believe that you are correct, and I certainly hope you're right. But here's the problem we have, Steve, and that is the news media is the most corrupt institution in America. I've got audio for you today I'm going to share with you, the news media telling us how great and how amazing Kamala Harris is. And it's all like Soviet propaganda. Amazing propaganda. Coming up. And it's mailbag day today. It's mail because it's Wednesday. It's hump day in the Clinton household, but it's mailbag day here. Nothing but good stuff going on here. Because the fight has been engaged. Because the Democrats say, my best girl out and about in Washington, Netanyahu, I don't want to say where. I don't want to give away his coordinates, but spotting him, and now Netanyahu's traveling a major motorcade helicopter overhead. Plans to visit a synagogue where you think Jews would be safe, but you got to look out because the Democrats have changed the equation on that. They're a violent political organization, radical political organization. Let's get to some audio because we got a lot of stuff to get on. And the Democrats, they give me. I have a 3-hour show every day, and it's not enough every day, as you know, to cover the craziness that the Democrats carry out in the 21 hours between the end of yesterday's show and the beginning of today's show, because they're so completely insane. Now, let's just start getting this. And Kamala saying attacking Trump. I know his type. Yeah. What type is that? And that's some taking a crack like, he allegedly had sex with Stormy Daniels or something. And I really do. I have to bring up Willie Brown because in that equation, you're the Stormy Daniels figure, just by the way. But setting that aside for the moment, Let's go. There's a fun anti-Kamala Harris ad made for television by Dave McCormick, running for the United States Senate, not as a Democrat, but as an American. And this kind of a fun ad, and it's a long one, too. I want to share it with you. It's a minute and a half, which is big for an ad. But Dave McCormick, running for the United States Senate, put together an ad that kind of laid out Kamala Harris's her record, because the news media is lying. Boy, are they lying. They're just telling us how great she is, what a great record she has, and forget about Willie Brown and how she got to where she's going. They're putting out Wonder Woman memes of Kamala Harris where she's a super hot body and skin tight superhero clothing and a shield. Does she have a sword? And she's like a superhero out of a comic book. I'd say she's out of a comic book, but definitely not superhero. Just amazing stuff. All right, so let's play this ad because Dave McCormick is putting out a really fun ad, and this is it sums up Kamala's entire existence pretty well.
Kamala Harris is inspiring and very capable. The more people get to know her, they're going to be particularly impressed by her ability.
The nonpartisan GovTrack has rated you as the most liberal senator.
I am prepared to get rid of the filibuster to pass a Green New Deal. There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Would you ban offshore drilling?
Yes.
What is the solution for voters in the fossil fuel industry?
Giving the workers an ability to transition.
We're not going to treat people who are undocumented and cross the border as criminals. That's correct.
Raise your hand if you think it should be a civil offense rather than a crime to cross the border without documentation.
Abolish ICE. Yeah, is that a position you agree with?
And we need to probably think about starting from scratch.
Outdated, it is wrong-headed thinking to think that the only way you're going to get communities to be safe is
get rid of ICE.
Officers on the street.
Would you support changing the dietary guidelines?
Yes.
The food pyramid. What would people
Yes.
to reduce red meat specifically?
Yes.
People who are convicted
because of the climate,
like the Boston Marathon bombers, on death row, people who are convicted of sexual assault, they should be able to vote.
I think we should have that conversation.
We have to have a buyback program.
Terrorists should get the vote.
Buyback program.
So
because she knows they're Democrats.
Well, they don't get to keep it.
Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on. I am opposed to any policy that would deny any human being public health, period.
The more people get to know her, they're going to be particularly impressed by her ability.
The big lie. Cackala, and this is pretty good stuff, I got to say. And Dave McCormick is running for the United States Senate in Pennsylvania. He is an Army veteran, a combat veteran, a businessman, a conservative, and it's a pretty good collection of Kamala tidbits. Destroying everything, open borders, votes for murderers and child rapists and terrorists, and the Boston bomber, the one that's still living, the one that ran over his brother and killed him, and the Tsarnaevs, remember them? And the Democrats, they tried to blame Republicans for that, the Boston Marathon bombing, and they were really thrilled, and they say, oh, look, they're white guys. See, they're patriots. They hate patriots. They're anti-patriot. But they were jihadis. They were jihad in the Democrat Party. Very, very dangerous, mentally ill, disturbed. Kamala, speaking of said group of people. Let's go to Kamala in Milwaukee, Wisconsin yesterday. In beautiful Milwaukee, Wisconsin was Kamala. And turns out she doesn't like President Trump very much. And it's no sense of irony, these people.
Before I was elected vice president, before I was elected United States Senator, I was elected Attorney General of the state of California, and I was a courtroom prosecutor before then.
Willie Brown.
And in those roles, I took on perpetrators of all kinds. Hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type. And in this campaign, I promise you, I will proudly put my record against his any day of the week.
Well, she does this like fake, my record against his, like, she's like Southern black drawl or something. Her father is a professor emeritus of economics at Stanford University, a Jamaican immigrant. They were divorced when she was very young. A lot of them seem to be fatherless. The Democrats, Barack Obama's Kenyan father abandoned him to go off and drink and crash his car into people while drunk and stuff like that. And now it turns out Kamala's father, who's 84 years old now. Again, Professor Emeritus, Stanford University, because it's a terrible racist country. Donald Jasper Harris, who came from Jamaica. And it's got to be really rough working in the United States of America, such a racist place. Professor Emeritus, Stanford University. Amazing stuff. And it turns out, if you go look up his biography, there are a lot of mentions of Karl Marx. Lots and lots of Karl Marx. He spent his whole life in academia because wouldn't you? And the Karl Marx thing is all over his biography. Classical economist, and Karl Marx, as he loves Karl Marx everywhere you look, is post-Keynesian economics. And he loves the work of the Piero Sraffa and the Michael Kalachik and Karl Marx, of course, because John Maynard Keynes. But never mind that. It's the Karl Marx part that matters, because they've all got a Marxist in their background, don't they? Every stinking one of them. Amazing stuff. Yeah, she knows. This is the phony convicted felon thing where a New York prosecutor, a Soros prosecutor, ginned up charges having to do with a non-disclosure agreement. Joe Biden sexually assaulted his Senate staffer, Tara Reid, who's so terrified of the Biden family and a corrupt U.S. government that she fled the United States of America because she feels that she's under constant threat in the United States of America. And this is the party of Bill Clinton and Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein and Anthony Weiner. This is the party that wants to get the vote to every convicted criminal in every jail and prison across the United States. This party is unwell. Yeah, and she's really upset. She doesn't approve of Donald Trump allegedly having sex outside of marriage. Wasn't Willie Brown married when she says, they were separated and his wife didn't understand him or something? His wife didn't understand, so, boink, boink. And then she got lots of government jobs out of it because it turns out Willie Brown kept promoting her in California. He had lots of political power. And what's political power for, if not to promote your side piece in all kinds of government jobs? Willie Brown's romantic relationship with then Alameda County Deputy District Attorney Kamala Harris preceded his appointment of Kamala Harris to 2 California state commissions in the early 1990s. And the San Francisco Chronicle, an extreme left-wing organization, called the Employment Insurance Appeals Board, and San Francisco, the California Medical Assistance Commission, called them patronage positions because, she's having sex with the Democrat Party boss. And what are you going to do? And when you're a Democrat, that makes the woman a superhero and the man, the next leader of the state and of the party. Pretty amazing stuff. But the Democrats. President Trump was doing a quick interview, was asked about Kamala Harris yesterday.
She's destroyed San Francisco, which is a hell of a thing to do. If she becomes president, Kamala Harris will make the invasion exponentially worse. And just like she did with San Francisco, just like she did with the border, our whole country will be permanently destroyed.
I got to say, President Trump's tone and his demeanor have been dialed down a little bit, even since the debate, and certainly since he was shot and nearly assassinated by an Act Blue donor, a 20-year-old who was, as a teenager, giving money to the Radical Act Blue. Now the fundraising group for lefties, billionaires funnel money in there, and they've got this fake way. I only learned this yesterday. They have this fake method, the billionaires do, of pouring millions of dollars in and making it look like it's all small donor money. And then the Democrats come out and say, oh, no, it's all, $15 and $20 donations from regular people across the country, when in reality, there are billionaires behind the curtain. And Crooks, the guy that shot President Trump's ear, he gave $15 to Act Blue. I'm wondering if he really gave $15 or whether it was part of a cover-up by corrupt Democrat millionaires and billionaires because they disdain money in politics, which is just another big lie that they tell. They love money in politics as long as it's their money. And they don't like men who aren't loyal and faithful to their wives unless, they're the ones having sex with the married men, in which case it's fine. They don't like men that are mean to women unless they're Joe Biden sexually assaulting, digitally penetrating his Senate staffer, Tara Reid, or Bill Clinton with the internship program. And then the list goes on from there. It goes on and on and on. But they're fine with all that, and they couldn't be bigger hypocrites. They pretend they disdain money in politics. That's a lie. They depend they're defenders of democracy. That's a lie. They pretend that they don't approve of men having relationships outside of marriage. That's a lie. Everything they say is a lie. And that they stand up for women, that's a lie. They stand up for black people, that's a lie. Speaking of which, if you don't vote for Kamala, then, well, we'll get to that in just a moment. So President Trump laying out a little bit of the thing. Now, and speaking of that, let's go to Joyless Reed on MSDNC, who's a racist and an anti-Semite and anti-American. And NBC News pays her tons and tons of money to be a racist and an anti-Semite. And not a journalist at all, but a fraud Democrat. Joyless Reed posted a video of herself on TikTok. And this is she's updating the old Joe Biden line.
You're going to look real crazy being on the other side of that line. If
you don't vote for Kamala.
Particularly as a person of color.
Yeah, particularly.
But really as anyone.
Black shaming.
Who claims to have any connection to the culture.
The culture.
You're going to look real weird and real lonely on that side.
Yeah, because I support looting and arson and burning police cars and anti-Semitic mobs and you're going to look on the culture like you're some sort of you get to define what the culture is. You're demented and insane, but that is a classic Democrat moment. And what she's doing is black shaming black people. If you don't support Kamala, then, well, how was it that Joe Biden put it?
But I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
And that's what Joyless Reed is updating there. If you're not supporting Kamala, then you ain't black. See? Because they're racist. Van Jones, speaking of communists, another longtime communist, self-described communist in interviews and so on, brought into the Obama administration. Obama, mentored by a communist, makes CIA director a Communist Party voter. No problem, Communist Party voter. CIA director corrupts our 2020 election. No problem. If we had a news media, what would they do with their time? Van Jones, Communist Party, Obama White House, CNN.
Free at last, free at last. Kamala Harris is unleashed. She's just brilliant. She's just the energy that's coming off of her is the energy that's coming off of the American people. Look, I mean, this is 2008 vibes already. She's done in literally 48 hours things that were considered impossible.
Yeah, raised $100 million and got 2,000 delegates in the Democrat Party without having a single primary vote. Yeah, it would be impossible because it's the most un-American, even Black Lives Matter. Wait till I share the Black Lives Matter statement with you. You're going to think, hey, I'm going to send $15 to Black Lives Matter. Just like the would-be assassin sent $15 to Act Blue. Yeah, got the 2008 vibe. Free at last, free at last. Yeah. By the way, Martin Luther King was shot by a Democrat Party campaign volunteer, just by the way. That gets airbrushed out of history because, they'd hate to engage in self-reflection. That could lead to self-immolation. Speaking of which, with Netanyahu in town, we could have more self-immolations today. We've already had 2 Democrats self-immolate at 2 different Israeli embassy in Washington, the Israeli consulate in Atlanta. 2 Democrats have self-immolated, committing suicide because they hate Jews so much. There's a lot of mental illness out there, and they're all Democrats. amazing stuff. All right, let's take another phone call, Michael. Let's go to Greg, calling from the great state of Alabama. Gregory, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hello, Chris. How are you doing, sir?
Very well, Greg. Thank you very kindly.
You are very awesome out there. Keep on spreading your word.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I want to ask you about, do you think the Jewish vote is mostly going to go toward Donald Trump and the youth vote out there?
I think the majority of the Jewish vote is going to go to whatever Democrat has a D next to their name.
How do you think with Benjamin Netanyahu and his speech today?
Well, again, I think the most recent number is 50. I think there are 50 Democrats boycotting members of Congress, including the Vice President of the United States, because when anyone, now only Winston Churchill has addressed a joint session of Congress, did address joint session of Congress 4 times, past tense. Benjamin Netanyahu today this will be his 4th address to a joint session of Congress, tying Winston Churchill's record. And Kamala Harris, the vice president, supposed as the president of the Senate, strange language, but that's the way it is, supposed to preside over the joint session and the address to the joint session. But they hate the Jews, so she's boycotting. And that's a disgrace. And I think the latest number is 50 Democrats boycotting. If you're Jewish and you're voting Democrat, you might as well be voting for Hamas. For Hamas.